We lost a true legend yesterday.
Yeah.
George Foreman.
A legend.
Passed away at 76.
Yeah.
March 21st, 2025.
Wow.
And I think for a lot of people, when you say the name George Foreman, they think of the grill.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
Everybody knows the grill.
But his life was so much more than that.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is a guy who was a heavyweight champion, not once, but twice.
Yeah, not once but twice. And decades apart.
Yeah, like the comeback story.
It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And, we talk about fighting spirit a lot.
Mm-hmm.
This is somebody who embodied that in and outside the ring.
For sure.
We've got a bunch of articles here, about his passing. We've got, ESPN reporting on it, Diane.com, the New York Times, paying tribute.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how they all kind of hit different parts of his life.
For sure.
But I think, what we want to do is take a deep dive
Absolutely.
into who this guy was.
Yep.
What were those key moments?
Yeah.
How did he show that bravery that we're talking about?
Yeah.
And ultimately, what's the takeaway for us today? What can we learn from this guy's life?
Absolutely, because there's definitely stuff to learn.
So let's rewind all the way back.
Okay.
To the beginning. Mm-hmm. This is not a guy who had it easy.
Right.
Grew up in poverty in Houston, Texas,
mm-hmm.
with his mom, 6 siblings.
Not an easy start.
Not an easy start. And even Foreman himself talked about how, those early years were really rough.
Yeah.
He drops out of junior high.
Oh, wow.
Gets caught up in street life.
Mm-hmm.
Even resorted to, robbing people.
Yeah.
Using his size and his strength.
Right.
To kind of get by. Which is so different than, the guy we kind of think of later in life.
Totally different image. Yeah.
But, there's got to be a turning point somewhere.
Right.
And the one that really jumps out is when he joins the Job Corps.
Okay.
And he actually credited that program with completely changing his life.
Wow.
I mean, think about that.
So what was it about the Job Corps?
It's interesting because they provided, structure, guidance, and really importantly, they gave him an outlet for all that aggression.
Okay.
Boxing.
Wow.
This was a way to channel that energy, that, anger into something positive.
So it's that bravery early on.
Yeah.
Taking that different path,
Absolutely.
Channeling it.
And he just excels at it.
Okay.
I mean, within a year and a half.
Wow.
At 19 years old.
19 years old.
He wins the heavyweight gold medal at the Olympics.
Jeez.
1968.
Mexico City.
Mexico City.
Yeah.
Think about that. Only 25 amateur fights under his belt.
That shows you, like, the talent, the raw talent he must have had.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And there's this little detail. He wins and he waves an American flag. And, some people at the time saw this as a, political statement.
Right.
But he was just like, no, I'm just glad to be an American. He said, I want people to live together in peace.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, that early on, he's got these values, these core values, and they're coming through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So from this, this high of the Olympics, he goes pro.
Okay.
And it's like he's unstoppable.
Right.
I mean, 37 fights.
Wow.
In a row.
Wins. That's a statement.
Yeah. He was known for his power.
Right.
I mean, people were afraid of this guy.
Yeah.
And then, it all culminates in that 1973 fight against Joe Frazier.
Right. Yeah.
For the heavyweight title.
Yeah.
And he was the underdog.
Okay.
Nobody thought he was going to win.
Right.
And what happens is legendary.
Yeah. Legendary.
I mean, he knocks Frazier down 6 times.
6 times?
In 2 rounds.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, you've heard the recordings, right?
Oh, yeah.
Howard Cosell, down goes Frazier.
Classics.
Down goes Frazier. I mean, it's just this display of power.
Wow.
The New York Times said it was this just like explosive demonstration of overpowering punching skills.
He was just a force of nature then.
Yeah. And he defends the title a couple times.
Okay.
And then comes the fight that I think everybody remembers.
Right.
The Rumble in the Jungle.
The Rumble in the Jungle, yeah.
Against Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
1974.
Zaire.
In Zaire.
Yeah.
And Foreman was the favorite.
Okay. So this is setting him up for a fall almost, isn't it?
Well, and then Ali pulls off this incredible upset with the rope-a-dope.
Oh, yeah, the rope-a-dope.
which, for people who don't know, Ali basically let Foreman tire himself out.
Yeah.
Punching him.
Yeah.
And then, knocked him out in the 8th round.
Wow. So this is a tactical masterclass by Ali, but it's also like a real test of Foreman's character. Like,
oh, absolutely.
To have that loss.
And this was his first loss.
His first loss ever.
First professional loss.
Wow.
On the biggest stage imaginable.
Oh, man.
I mean, the ESPN article, they talked about how this almost like psychiatrically scarred him.
Right.
To go from being, this unstoppable force.
Yeah.
To being defeated.
Yeah.
You can only imagine what that must have been like.
It must have been a huge shock.
Yeah.
And like you say, to have that happen so publicly as well.
Yeah.
It must have been really tough.
And it led to a lot of, self-reflection, obviously.
Okay.
And a few years later, 1977, he actually retires.
Retires from boxing.
Retires from boxing.
Wow.
At 28 years old.
28. That's young.
Young. And he cites his religious beliefs.
Okay.
And, he said his mother didn't want him to box anymore.
Right.
So, here's a guy who's prioritizing something else.
Yeah.
Putting other things first.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Above his own, career.
So what does he do? What happens next?
Well, he goes on to become a non-denominational Christian minister in Houston.
Okay.
And he starts a youth center.
Wow.
I mean, talk about a change.
Huge change.
Right.
From fearsome fighter to, man of faith.
Yeah.
Community leader.
Serving his community.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a real transformation.
But the story doesn't end there.
Okay.
About a decade later, he decides to come back to boxing.
He comes back to boxing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, I mean, think about it. How old is he now?
He's much heavier.
Okay.
I mean, he's like 315 pounds.
315 pounds.
And his main motivation was to raise money for his youth center.
Wow.
Talk about brave.
That's amazing.
To step back into the ring.
Right.
After all this time.
Yeah.
For that reason.
So this is about more than just himself now.
Yeah.
He's fighting for something bigger.
Absolutely. And he wasn't just doing it to, make up the numbers.
Okay.
He goes on another win streak.
Another one.
24 fights.
Jeez.
Gradually getting back into shape.
Right.
And proving he could still do it.
And still have that competitive fire.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And it leads to this whole second act.
Okay.
In his career.
Yeah.
1991.
Okay.
He's 42.
Right.
He fights Evander Holyfield.
Holyfield.
Yeah. He loses.
Okay.
But it's a good fight.
Right.
It's a credible performance.
So he still got it.
Yeah.
At 42.
And a lot of people were probably thinking, okay, that's it. That's the end.
You'd think so, right?
But not George Foreman.
Okay.
1994.
Right.
He's 45 now.
45.
He gets another title shot.
Against
Michael Moore.
Michael Moore.
Undefeated Michael Moore.
Wow.
Who was much younger.
Right.
And there was a lot of skepticism.
Right.
People were saying, this is just, a nostalgia thing.
Oh, come on. Really?
And Foreman's response is amazing.
What did he say?
He said, it's not about deserving because I've got it.
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's confident.
The self-belief.
Yeah.
And he delivers.
He wins.
He was behind on points, taking a beating.
Right.
But in the 10th round, he lands that right hand.
Classic right hand.
Knocks Moore out.
Knocks him out at 45.
At 45, I mean, the images of him, between rounds, just like digging deep.
Oh, man.
That's resilience.
That's fighting spirit right there.
It's amazing.
Unbelievable.
And he becomes the oldest heavyweight champion in history.
The oldest.
Almost 20 years after his first title.
Wow.
And what he said after, he said, anything you desire, you can make happen. Well, look at me tonight.
Right.
I mean, it's just inspiring.
That's the takeaway.
Right.
Anything you desire, you can make it happen.
Yeah. He goes on to defend the title.
Okay.
But eventually has to relinquish some belts.
Okay.
Because he wouldn't fight some of the mandatory challengers.
Right.
And he finally retires for good.
Okay.
In 1997.
At 48.
48, with a record of 76 wins and 5 losses.
That's amazing.
He's one of the all-time greats.
He is.
Inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame in 2003.
Rightly so.
But, as we know, that's not the end of the story.
Okay.
He goes on to have this incredibly successful career.
Right.
As an entrepreneur.
As an entrepreneur.
And the George Foreman Grill, I mean.
Come on. It's iconic.
Iconic.
It's in everybody's kitchen.
It started right around when he won that second title.
Okay.
1994.
Right.
And And he was so good at it.
Okay.
I mean, he had that personality, those catchphrases.
It's a knockout.
It's knockout. And it connected with people. And it became this huge success. I mean, we're talking huge financial success.
Yeah.
In 1999, Salton Inc. pays him $137.5 million.
What?
For the rights to his name.
Seriously?
I mean, that's a whole different kind of fight, right?
That's incredible.
The fight in the business world.
Yeah.
And he was endorsing all sorts of things.
Okay.
And his explanation for it, he said, what I do is fall in love with every product I sell. That's what sells, just like with preaching.
It's genuine enthusiasm.
That's what it is. And he even gets into acting a little bit.
Okay.
He had his own sitcom.
What was it called?
It was called George.
George. Okay.
And then later he was on The Masked Singer.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
So he was trying all these new things, stepping outside of that boxing persona.
Right.
And then, of course, you've got to mention the fact that he named all 5 of his sons George.
I've heard about this. Yeah, all 5 sons, George. It's amazing.
And he wrote a children's book about it.
Did he really?
Called Let George Do It.
Oh, come on.
I mean,
That's great.
Shows a sense of humor.
Yeah.
His love for his family.
And he obviously had a great understanding of how to connect with people.
Yeah.
Because, like he said, they want to touch you. They want to know you. Then they'll buy you. That's really insightful about celebrity and branding and all of that.
His family released a statement, after his passing.
Yeah.
Called him a humanitarian, an Olympian, a 2-time heavyweight champion.
Right.
And a man of unwavering faith, humility, and purpose.
That kind of sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really does.
And beyond those 5 sons, George.
Right.
5 biological daughters.
Wow.
2 adopted daughters.
Okay.
He was married 5 times.
Wow.
But, found lasting happiness with Mary Joan Martelli in 1985.
Right.
So, I mean, when you look at this life, what are the lessons here?
That's what I was thinking. For our listeners out there, what can we take away from George Foreman's life?
I think first and foremost, his resilience.
Oh, resilience, yeah.
I mean, think about it. Tough childhood.
Right.
Devastating loss to Ali.
Yeah.
People doubting him when he came back. Faced so many setbacks.
Yeah.
But he always found a way to get back up.
Hmm.
That's a huge lesson.
Yeah.
Just don't quit.
Yeah, don't quit. Don't give up.
And that comeback at 45.
Right.
I mean, most athletes are done.
Yeah.
At that age.
Yeah.
He's redefining what's possible.
Pushing those limits.
Pushing limits.
What did he say? Anything you desire, you can make happen.
And then you think about how he completely reinvented himself.
Okay, yeah.
Went from this intimidating boxer.
Right.
To this, almost like grandfatherly figure.
Yeah.
Selling millions of grills.
Loved by everyone.
Loved by everyone. How do you change public perception like that?
It's really difficult.
It's amazing.
It takes a lot of courage.
Yeah. And then, his faith.
Right.
Seems to be at the center of a lot of his decisions.
Right.
Why he retired initially.
Yeah.
His ministry.
Right.
The youth center.
Yeah, it gave him purpose.
Yeah, it gave him purpose.
Outside of the ring.
Beyond boxing.
Yeah.
And his ability to connect with people.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Whether he was fighting, preaching, selling.
Whatever he was doing.
He had this enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And it was real.
It was real.
And people felt that.
Yeah.
So, for you listening out there.
Yeah, for everyone listening.
What is it about George Foreman's story that resonates with you?
Yeah, what connects with you?
Is it that fighting spirit?
Yeah.
Is it the faith?
Is it that he was willing to reinvent himself?
Reinvent himself.
Yeah.
How can you apply that to your own life?
Because we can all learn something from him, can't we?
Absolutely. I mean, his life was just this powerful example of fighting spirit.
Yeah.
Inside and outside the ring.
Inside and outside the ring.
He had the comebacks.
The comebacks.
He had the connection with
people.
people.
Connection with people.
So as you go forward,
yeah.
Think about those moments.
Yeah.
Where you might need to tap into that.
Right.
That resilience.
Yeah, resilience.
That ability to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
What comeback is waiting for you?
Yeah. What unlikely comeback?
It's out there.
Absolutely.
You just got to find it.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening.